Hey, welcome to Go For It. Paul Gain here. I'm just stopping in real quick. Talk about Philadelphia 76ers, Atlanta Hawks, Game 7. What a big-time disappointment if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. And for the Atlanta Hawks, clearly this is a great situation for you. The Atlanta Hawks, you fire your coach, Lloyd Pierce, during the season there, which some people speculated wasn't the best of moves, but you hire Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan is a consummate professional. He's been a big-time coach everywhere he's been, everywhere he's went, and ultimately now the Atlanta Hawks are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I say this when it comes to the NBA. The best team usually wins in the NBA in a 7-game series. And I thought coming into this series, and I still kind of believe it, but the results are the results. I thought the Sixers were the better basketball team coming into this series. And I thought, being that they are the better basketball team, that they ultimately would win this series. And you look at this series, Game 4 and 5 is where, Game 5 and 6, 4 and 5 is where things really messed up. You had the 18-point lead in Game 4, you blew it, and then you had the 26-point lead in Game 5, and you blew it. That was the series pretty much right there. At that point, Philadelphia could have went up 3-1 and been in complete control of the series. I mean, that was it. That was it right there. And you look at this Sixers team, they got to think about some changes. I mean, at some point, Ben Simmons is who he is. He doesn't shoot jump shots. He can defend his tail off. Could have easily been a defensive player of the year. He's a big-time defender. He can pass his butt off. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the playoffs, the second round of the playoffs, that doesn't win. It wins during the regular season, and it's proven to win during the regular season because we've seen it win in the regular season. Obviously, this team had the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So everything was set up for the Philadelphia 76ers to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Everything was set up. You get the Wizards in the first round, obviously a very beatable team, and then you got the Hawks in the next round, a team that you're better than, a team that you should beat because you're better than. You had home court advantage. You lost 3 games in your building. 3 games in your building. That's unacceptable. You can't lose 3 games in your building. And you look at the Philadelphia 76ers in the regular season, they were very good at home. And I know there weren't many fans throughout the course of the season, but this team was 29-7 in their building. So they defended their home court week in, day out, game in and game out. But ultimately, come playoff time, you lose 3 times in your building. So obviously, we got to think about the future. And Joel Embiid, you look at him, how many years does he have? How many years can you trust that Joel Embiid can stay healthy enough? Like, how many years? You have to figure out whether or not this guy can stay healthy. And it's a huge question. Can Joel Embiid stay healthy? 27 years old. But year in and year out, he struggled with injuries in the playoffs. And here's the thing. It's come to the point now when I look at the Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons is who he is. He's not going to shoot. We wanted to shoot. We saw the videos in the offseason, him pulling up, shooting threes, and doing all these great things with the jump shot. We want him to shoot, but he's just not going to do it. We have to accept that. This is who Ben Simmons is. Now, it could work if you had another guy. It worked when you had Jimmy Butler. Remember, when you had Jimmy Butler, it worked. Because at that point, you didn't necessarily need Ben Simmons to score. With the way this roster is constructed, you need Ben Simmons to score the basketball. You didn't need him to score the basketball when Jimmy Butler was in Philadelphia, because you remember Jimmy Butler was handling the ball. He was the guy handling the ball. So you didn't need Ben Simmons to produce. You didn't need his scoring. But the way this team is constructed now, you need him to score. You need Ben Simmons' scoring. And come playoff time, it gets exposed. It gets exposed. And the reality is, when you look at it, Ben Simmons always plays well in the first round of the playoffs. Come second round is when things change. That's when things change for Ben Simmons, and he's not as effective as he is in the first round. The competition stiffens, and Ben Simmons is not the same player. The game slows down. Ben Simmons is not the same player. He can't score in the half court effectively. You saw in the game today, this man is running away from a dunk. He had a dunk late in that game. He ran away from it. He handed it off to Thibault. Thibault got fouled. They were down 2. Thibault went for 2 from the free throw line, and they still were down 1. That was a big moment in the game because Ben Simmons could have dunked that, and it could have been an N1. And if he wasn't N1, maybe he makes the free throw. But you still got the 2 points, and the game is still tied. And so it's just, you look at Philadelphia, and they've had difficult times getting past the second round. This crew of Ben Simmons and Embiid have not been past the second round, right? The first time they made the playoffs, they lost in the second round to Boston. They lost in 5. Right? And so at that point, at that time, that was a team that I thought was better than the Boston Celtics. Because you remember, that was the year that Kyrie was hurt. That was the year Kyrie was hurt. It was 2017, 2018. That was the year Kyrie was hurt. And so Boston wasn't, they were beatable. They were banged up in that particular season, and they were a beatable team then. And the Sixers could not get it done. Couldn't get it done. But this team, with Simmons and Embiid, cannot get past the second round. They can't do it. Cannot do it. Struggled mightily. Cannot do it. Doc Rivers, what happened here is unacceptable. It is unacceptable for what happened here. And you look at Doc Rivers over the year, the man has had some collapses. He's had some 3-1 situations where his team lost. He's had those situations. He's had collapses. So this is not anything different when it comes to Doc Rivers. And I'm not sitting here today saying, get rid of Doc Rivers. I'm not saying that. I'm not necessarily prepared to do that. I don't want to do that. But I do maybe want to get rid of Ben Simmons. It comes a point where people are who they are. If you're with a man or a female and they keep cheating on you, you keep taking them back. You keep taking them back. And they never change, and they keep doing the behavior that caused the situation to go haywire. Well, guess what? If they keep doing it over and over and over again, they are who they are, and you have to accept them for who they are. And Joel Embiid, to me, did what he had to do. He did what he had to do, and he had that turnover late in the game, what led to dunk by Gallinari that pretty much sewed up the game at that point. And here's also the thing with the Sixers. You look at that roster, and the question was always, to me, the moment Jimmy Butler left, is who is taking your last shot? Who is the guy that you're going to put the ball in the hands of and take that last shot? And to me, I guess it's Tobias Harris. But it was always a question mark. It was always something, that I really wasn't too comfortable with when it came to the Philadelphia 76ers. Who was going to take that final shot? Who was going to take that final shot? And you look at this game, down the stretch, they didn't have a guy that could take that final shot. They didn't have the guy that could create a good enough shot for this team. And it showed. They got tight down the stretch, and they were tight throughout the course of this game. They were tight the whole game. And maybe the pressure was on them because, look, for the Atlanta Hawks, if the Atlanta Hawks would have lost today, their season's a success. Congratulations. You started off slow. You fired Lloyd Pierce. You brought in Nate McMillan. Ultimately, you got to the second round of playoffs. You took the number 1 seed to the 7th game, right? At that point, your season was a success. For the Sixers, for them, their series to be a success, they had to win tonight. For the Hawks, it really didn't matter. Their season was already a success. So the pressure was on the Philadelphia 76ers to be and win this game. They had the game in their building. They were tight throughout this game, I felt. I felt this was a tight basketball team, and it showed. And down the stretch again, they couldn't muster up good enough shots for them to be effective. It just couldn't do it. And yeah, you're right. Ben Simmons is that. He is that. He is he is a very flawed player. He's very, very flawed. He is very flawed. And you know what? I said this to somebody, and you might call me crazy, but guess what? Ben Simmons could do what he does each and every year. He's a 3-time All-Star, right? Those All-Stars keep piling up. He was on first team all defense. You still start piling up those All-Stars. His stat line is still 15, pretty much 8-8. All right, this guy ultimately, as crazy as this sounds, if he plays this way the rest of the way, could be a Hall of Famer. As flawed as he is, he could be a Hall of Famer. That's the crazy part, because you can see him. He could pile up All-Star games. 3-time All-Star. It could get better. It could get 4, 5, 6, and then we start talking about, wow, this dude, it could end up being a Hall of Famer. I mean, Ben Simmons, right? Like, that's crazy. Ben Simmons is only 24 years old. He's only 24 years old. But guess what, right? He's not going to change. He's not going to change. He's not going to shoot jumpers. He's not going to work on the guy has an arrogance about him, right? It's almost like he's one of these guys, I think, that basketball always came easy to him, and he was always better than everybody else doing some of the things that he did. And ultimately, the way his talent is, the way his skill set is, yes, he's good enough where the guy's always in shape. He's always in tip-top shape, but he doesn't, for whatever reason, it's some kind of mental block. Here's the funny thing. Yesterday, right, I was watching Ben Simmons Summer League. The Ben Simmons Summer League, that dude was shooting jump shots. He just played with a level of confidence that he doesn't play with anymore. The guy maybe needs to sit down with a sports psychologist to figure out why, when the lights are bright, he can't shoot jump shots, right? You just look at, it's just like in boxing sometimes. Some people have like that sparring mentality, right? That when they're in the gym sparring, they're effective, they're big time, they do some big time things. As soon as the lights get bright, they freeze up. And for whatever reason, that seems to be Ben Simmons. He's running away from dunks. I mean, Kenny Smith pointed out, he ran to the big board. Kenny runs to the big board, and he showed some plays where Ben was just giving up the ball in certain places because he didn't have that level of comfort with the ball. He didn't want to get fouled. He didn't want to go to the free throw line. He was reluctant. He was uncomfortable to go to the line. And at some point, something is awry, something is not right. And if you believe that Joel Embiid is that centerpiece that can get you to the NBA Finals, then you have to make a move at this point, because who knows how long Joel Embiid has? Who knows? Who knows in terms of his injury history how long Joel Embiid has in the National Basketball Association? Who knows how long Joel Embiid has, and who knows how long Joel Embiid can play at an elite level without getting hurt? We don't know. So at that point, I think the clock is ticking. You got to make a decision. And Daryl Morey has to figure out, is Ben Simmons the guy that we can win a championship with? I say yes, but you need another scorer. You need that Jimmy Butler type. You need that Jimmy Butler, what he brought to the table, because Jimmy Butler brought some serious things to the table. He brought some serious things to the table, and everything Ben Simmons couldn't do or wouldn't do, Jimmy Butler could. He could do it all. Jimmy Butler can take that last second shot. Everything Ben couldn't do, Jimmy could do. And then at that point, you can have a situation where Ben can just be what? Ben Wallace can be a Draymond Green in terms of just focusing on defense and facilitating at times, but just focusing on defense and being a stalwart defender. But the way this team is constructed, Ben has to score. He's got to shoot jump shots. He's got to score. That's the way this team is constructed. Ben Simmons has to score. And it's clear at this point that he's not capable of doing it, or he's reluctant to do it, or he just can't do it. Can't do it. Don't want to do it, can't do it, who knows? But it's clear at this point in time that Ben Simmons might be who he is. And I'm putting it like this. We know who Joel Embiid is. Joel Embiid's a big-time center. He's a big-time player, MVP caliber player, Hall of Fame caliber player in terms of his ability and the things that he does. But at the end of the day, we know he's going to get hurt at some point, right? We know he's going to miss time. He missed what, 21 games, 20-some-odd games this year. We know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, right? That's who he is. We know who he is. Ben Simmons. We know he's a big-time defender. We know what he can bring to the table on the defensive end of the court. We know his passing ability. We know the things that he can do. But we also know that he's not going to shoot jump shots. He's going to shoot it, and when he's in a gym and it doesn't matter, right? He's going to shoot it when he's playing pickup with some of his friends or some of his boys preparing for the season. But when it's time, the lights get bright, not going to shoot it. Just not going to shoot it. It's just not who he is. It's just not what he does. And unfortunately, the Sixers need him to do that. The Sixers need him to shoot the basketball. The Sixers need him to shoot jump shots. The Sixers need him to be more than what he is at this point of his career. The Sixers need him to be more. They need Ben Simmons to be more. But again, I mean, you look at it from this standpoint, he's only 24 years old, right? You could say, well, he's only 24 years old. He still has room to improve, still has room to grow. That is fair, right? But if you want to win a championship with Joel Embiid, who's 27 years old at this point, the clock is ticking. It's that simple. So, yes, Ben Simmons is young. Yes, Ben Simmons still has time and room to grow. But at the end of the day, the pressure is on for the Philadelphia 76ers to win now. And it's time to win now. This is a disappointment. This is the biggest disappointment of this playoff run. I mean, Brett Brown, you fired Brett Brown, which it was time to do. It was time to fire Brett Brown. It was the right move. But ultimately, you fired Brett Brown. You brought in Doc Rivers, and everybody talked about, Doc brings respect. We respect Doc, and, it's great having that, and the environment is great, and, we're a cohesive team, and, we got this great chemistry. You got all these things going on. Doc Rivers, and it was beautiful, right? And you get to this point, this time, this place, this situation, and ultimately you choke it away. This is a choking situation. Based on what happened in Game 4 and 5, this is a choking situation because it never should have came down to Game 7. The Sixers were the better team. And when you're the better team and you lose, something has to give. I'm not saying fire Doc Rivers, but something has to give. Could that mean trade Ben Simmons? Maybe. Something has to give. Tobias Harris, solid, decent, sort of an all-star, borderline all-star, but he's required to pretty much be your number 2 scorer. Seth Curry works, But I think Steph Curry only works if Ben Simmons is here because of his size. And Steph Curry was a defensive liability down the stretch. Kevin Huerter ate his lunch in this particular game. So, I think Steph only works if Ben is here, Ben Simmons. So I don't know. They got some question marks. They got a lot of questions. And these are the types of losses that changes have to happen. Players have to be moved. Guys have to be traded. Something has to go down. And I know Doc, he defends Ben and Simmons, and he does it, and he's done it throughout the course of this season. But the way he shot from the free throw line, 30% in this in this series in the playoffs, it's unacceptable. You can't have your point guard shooting 30%, right? Like this is Shaq-like. This is Shaq-like, right? But here's the thing with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal was a beast, was a dominant force. Ben is not that. Ben is not that. And, I don't know. I mean, Ben for Russ or John Wall, only thing I can think of, the thing that matches up salary-wise, no one wants a point guard that can't shoot and won't shoot, and it's a liability to be in the game in the fourth. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing about Westbrook. Westbrook will shoot it. Westbrook is a dog. Westbrook will actually go for it. Westbrook is an absolute. I mean, you could say what you will about Russell Westbrook, but he did average a triple-double this year. I mean, it's an interesting thought. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's the direction you want to go. But, one thing I always thought, Ben for like a CJ McCollum type. Obviously, you would love to have Dame Lillard, but I don't think the Sixers can put anything together. I don't know. I don't think it will work. I don't think if you're Portland, you will want that. But Portland, they're in a position where they might have to make a move. You got to do something. You got to do something with Ben. Ben Simmons is a unique talent, a special talent. He's a special talent, man. I mean, he could do a lot of different things. I can't take that away from him, and I don't think anybody can take that away from him. He could do a lot of different things. But here's the thing. When you got a guy, right? And you could be right. You could be right. You could be right. I mean, but they have to do something. They have to do something to change the course in Portland, because it's almost like they ran out. It's like Portland at this point has done everything they could to try to win with that roster, try to win with Dame and CJ, but it seems like they got to make a move as well. So they have to think about some things, and the Sixers clearly have to think about some things. So, we'll see what kind of things they think of and muster up at this point. But, I don't know. Russell Westbrook, man, I don't know. I don't know, because I feel like you almost should get more for Ben than Russell Westbrook. But, I don't know. Obviously, there was some talk that Ben and, talked earlier about James Harden, bringing James Harden in for Ben Simmons. Who knows how far that got, if it got anywhere. But, I mean, they got to do something. I mean, Russell Westbrook, yeah, it's a thought. It's definitely a thought. I don't know, man. I just don't know at this point in terms of Russell Westbrook. And it's Russell Westbrook. I know their triple doubles are good, and I don't want to say they're hollow numbers, because I'm not going to say there's hollow numbers, because if that was the case, everybody would be getting triple doubles, and everybody would be averaging triple doubles throughout the course of the season. I'm not going to say that when it comes to Russell Westbrook, but is it winning numbers? I mean, Russell Westbrook isn't winning. Is it equate to winning? I know the stats say it does equate to winning on some level. I know there's a record out there where when he gets triple doubles, the record is good. It's a good record. I don't know off the top of my head, but I will say it's a good record. But is that? I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. And yeah, you're right. Ben's stock hasn't went down. I mean, because we know. I think people know who he is. We do know he's an elite defender. We do know that. I mean, he easily could have won Defensive Player of the Year. He easily could have won Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, it could have went his way. And he was first team all defense, and he is an elite defender. It goes back to my point though, when it comes to Ben Simmons, the role that he has, the way he's getting paid, and the role that he has with the Philadelphia 76ers, they need him to score. And he just can't do it. He's not capable of doing it come postseason. I believe Ben should do this. If he's not going to work on the jump shot, which he should, I think he should work on his post game. Work on that post game and get go work with Akeem Olajuwon. Get with Akeem this summer. I know Ben's been working with his brother, these past few summers, but that clearly is not working. But get with Akeem Olajuwon. Go get with Akeem Olajuwon. Akeem Olajuwon, a guy with some, Olajuwon can teach you some footwork in the post, and just work with Akeem Olajuwon or somebody of that type on your post game. Get that post game right. Get that post game better, because you could theoretically at 6'11", a 6'11" point guard, a la Magic Johnson, you could be posting guys up, backing guys down, and creating shots and offense that way. But he became a liability for the Philadelphia 76ers down the stretch of games because he couldn't hit free throws. And when you can't hit free throws, you become a liability, because then Hacker Ben happens, and then what you do Hacker Ben, then Ben Simmons is pretty much taken out of the game on the offensive end of the court. You look at this game, he didn't finish down the stretch there. He wasn't even in the game. And down on the offensive possessions, he wasn't in the game, right? So it's like, I think you got to figure out what your team can do and how far your team can go. But I feel like at this point, you've taken this team as far as you can take it. This is what happened. You lost in the second round the first year with Boston, the first time you make it to the playoffs, and then ultimately you lost to the Toronto Raptors, who ultimately won the championship on that Kawhi Leonard shot. But at this point in time, man, you got to say you can't get by the second round. You change coaches. You change, president of basketball operations in Daryl Morey. You brought in a whole different group. And you could argue, well, you know what? This is the first year of a new regime, and maybe we need another year to make this thing right, fix it all up, and get it where it needs to be. Let's look at Daniel Wells. So not to steer the conversation away from Ben's ineptitude, but I got to put a lot on our on-court leaders. There was no leadership on the court. I saw zero teamwork in the fourth, no cohesion. I will say this. One thing I thought about the Sixers team when watching them, the chemistry seemed good. But this game, they were tight. And Joel and Ben, the team shouldn't be this tight because they've been to this moment, to this place, multiple times. They've been to this moment in this place multiple times. They shouldn't be this tight. They should not be this tight. And the pressure got to these guys. The pressure got to these boys. And it showed. The pressure got them. Ben Simmons, you look at Ben Simmons, 2 for 4. So he shot 4 field goals, 6 points, 13 assists, 1 steal, no blocks, 2 turnovers, 8 rebounds. I mean, that's not the stat line that the Sixers need from Ben Simmons in order for them to be effective. That is not the stat line that they need to have from Ben Simmons. You know what? They could have that stat line if Jimmy Butler was still on that roster. They could afford to have that kind of stat line if Jimmy Butler was still on this team. But Jimmy ain't here. So they don't have the scoring necessary to ultimately overcome Ben Simmons' deficiencies, his ineptitude, his inability to shoot the basketball, right? I thought coming into this game, right? I thought, and call me crazy because clearly I'm crazy based on what happened, I thought Sixers were going to blow the Hawks out in this game. I thought they were going to blow them out. I thought they were going to blow the doors down. I thought this game was going to be a blowout. I thought Sixers fans would be sitting pretty come third quarter, relaxing, chilling. If you're a father, you're just chilling, laughing with your kids, having a good old time, not even focused on the game come third quarter, fourth quarter. That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be like what transpired in Game 5 ultimately, but I thought they were going to hold on to the lead. And that didn't happen, clearly. And ultimately, it didn't happen because Atlanta came to play, and ultimately the 76ers were tight. And look, here's also the thing. At some point, when you give up an 18-point lead in Game 4 and you give up a 26-point lead in Game 5, at some point, those type of things come back to bite you in the butt, right? We saw the Clippers, right? We look at the Los Angeles Clippers and how tough, the mental toughness that they've shown throughout the course of these playoffs. You look at the Los Angeles Clippers, right? First round, Dallas Mavericks, they lose the first 2 games in their building, right? Win the next 2 in Dallas. And then Game 5, they ultimately lose to Dallas again. So they're down 3-2, and they go into Dallas and win Game 6 and ultimately bring it back to their building. They win it in 7. We look at them the next round against the Utah Jazz, down 2-0. They come on back, lose Kawhi Leonard, down 25 points in a Game 6 situation after beating the Jazz in Utah in Game 5. And then you still come on back from 25 points down and you win the game. So, I thought the Sixers would be a similar thing to on some respect, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And ultimately changes. When you lose the way the 76ers lost in this particular series, changes usually come. Changes usually happen. When you lose the way the 76ers lost in this series, usually changes happen. Whether it's the coach, and I don't think Doc Rivers is going, or whether it's players. Right? If this was last year, clearly you knew Brett Brown was done. After losing to Boston in the first round, getting swept, even though they didn't have Ben Simmons, you knew Brett Brown was done. In this instance, Doc Rivers' first year, Daryl Morey first year, again, you could argue, they could say, you know what? Even though we came up short in the second round once more again, we're going to bring this whole thing back because now Doc, this is Doc's second year with this group, right? Daryl Morey's going to add in some pieces here, add in some pieces there, and ultimately they're going to put together a championship caliber team. Did they miss Danny Green in this particular series? I think they did. They did miss his shooting. I mean, Danny Green is solid. I'm not saying Danny Green is a game changer, but he is solid. He's a decent defender. He's a decent three-point shooter. He can make shots. And you look at Korkmaz came in and wasn't bad. He wasn't bad, but again, it messed with your depth a little bit. So yeah, losing Danny Green was something that impacted this team to a degree. It did, no doubt about it. We can't dismiss it. Losing Danny Green, not having Danny Green in this particular series did not help your situation. It didn't. But it was something they should have overcome because even without Danny Green, they still were the better team. And you look at Game 6, right? Going back to Game 6, game Philadelphia 76ers won. Interesting game. Ben Simmons didn't play that well, got in some foul trouble, didn't play well. And ultimately, Tyrese Maxey came in and he saved the day. Scored 16 points in that particular game, had a big-time game, played some big-time basketball, did some big-time things, and ultimately helped the Sixers get the game. And that may have been the best thing that happened to the Philadelphia 76ers in that game because Ben Simmons wasn't going well. It wasn't playing well. And here's also I want you to think about this. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I've looked at this before. Ben Simmons' first-round numbers in comparison to the second-round numbers. It's a stark difference. It's a big difference, man. He's not as effective when the competition rises. So usually, right, 76ers, I believe, first year they were the third seed, I believe. They played the Miami Heat. And that first year they went to the playoffs with this group of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They were clearly the better basketball team, and Ben Simmons played well, and ultimately they got what they needed, did what they needed to, and blew out, but Ben played well. Right? Then the following year, they played the Brooklyn Nets. You remember that? Him and Jared Dudley going back and forth, and Ben had that big game. Where Ben Simmons scored, I think it was 31 points, and I think a Game 4 or something. He had a big-time game, right? But again, that's the first round. Second round, Ben Simmons, when he played Toronto, wasn't the same. First year against Boston wasn't the same. He's not the same in the second round. The competition gets greater. The competition gets tougher. Everything gets tighter. And the game slows, and Ben is just not the same player. He's ineffective in a half-court setting. He's running away from balls. He's running away from dunks. He's running away so he doesn't have to jump on the free throw line. He's just running and running and running and not running to good places. He's running away from the foul line. He doesn't want to – something is not right. And I felt like Brett Brown tried to push him to shoot. He tried to say, shoot 1-3 a game, right? But it just seems like they're coddling Ben Simmons. And, at this point, they're not pushing him to be better than, to shoot the basketball. Not pushing him. No one's pushing Ben Simmons to shoot the basketball. No one. There's not a personal, it's, Doc Rivers defends him and defends him and defends him. No one is pushing him to shoot the basketball. No one. That can't be. You're either going to be a big-time player that shoots the basketball, or you're going to figure something else in terms of getting them out of here. Somebody has to get on his neck, get on his back, and tell him, dude, you got to shoot the basketball. And if he's not going to do it, we have to figure out why. And here's the interesting thing. It's crazy. The Sixers, right? Markelle Fultz. I know he had the shoulder injury and everything, but it was just a mental situation when it came to this guy and shooting the basketball, right? And then obviously you got Ben Simmons. There's a mental block somewhere that doesn't allow him something is holding him back. And look, we have things in life that hold us back, right? We all have things that hold us back. If you have to do a big speech in front of a bunch of people and you're shy, that's holding you back, right? So we all have fears that hold us back. Some people are afraid to drive for a period of time. It holds them back. Some people are afraid of bugs. Some people are afraid of all these different things, that rejection that just holds them back. Ben Simmons has a jump shot, or he's scared to shoot the jump shot, and it's holding him back. It's affecting him. It's messing with his game. It's affecting his ability to be the best basketball player that he can possibly be. It is messing with his head. It's messing with his mind. It's messing with something is not right in terms of the mental makeup of Ben Simmons in terms of when it comes to shooting the basketball. I ain't saying the guy's crazy or anything like that. I'm just saying in terms of when it comes to basketball. But also I will tell you this, right? If you had Ben Simmons just signed, a max contract, right? So if you had Ben Simmons money and making all that money, right? And you got all that money there, guaranteed dollars, you signed a 5-year, $177 million contract. So if you got, it's guaranteed dollars. So if you got $177 million going to your bank account, it's got some probably endorsements and things of that nature out there as well. Is there really an incentive to be better? If your job said, you know what, here's the guarantee, 5 years, $177 million. It's there. It's guaranteed no matter what happens, no matter what you do, the dollars are guaranteed. Would you really want to get better? Would you really try to get better? Would you really try to improve? And I'm not saying that's the case with Ben Simmons, but let's put ourselves in his position. Would we really try to be better if the money was already in the bank? If the $177 million was in the bank? And all you had to do pretty much at this point, play basketball. Look, Ben Simmons, it's not like he's a scrub. It's not like he's not a 3-time All-Star. It's not like he's not a first-team all-defensive player. It's not like he easily could have been the defensive player of the year. So it's not like he's a scrub, but there's another level that he can get to and that the Sixers need him to get to in order for them to win an NBA title. It's clear. We've seen this script. It's not like this is a new script. It's the same old script. It's the same old two-step. It's the same old thing. Ben Simmons will not shoot the basketball. It's the same thing. And I think it's just one of these things. Like, just say to yourself, right? You're a salesman and you got guaranteed dollars coming in. And each and every year, you're going to be one of the top salesmen out there. But you could be better. There's another level that you can get to. but for whatever reason, something's preventing you or you just don't want to do it. Ben Simmons is at that point. Something is preventing him. Something is standing in his way. There is a block. Some people, it's like Steve Sachs when he couldn't throw to first base, right? Some people just in baseball, they just can't, they can't throw to first base. Something is in their head that for whatever reason, they cannot throw to first base. Who was it? Rick Ankiel. Remember Rick Ankiel many years ago for the St. Louis Cardinals, the pitcher. The guy, for whatever reason, something went in his head and he couldn't. He just was throwing wild pitches for whatever reason. Couldn't throw a strike anymore. Something happened. And something is going on with Ben Simmons. Look, I challenge you to look at what he's done in the summer league. Watch his summer league basketball clips. It was a dude that was shooting jump shots. He was shooting jump shots. He was playing kind of like he played at LSU. He was shooting jump shots. He was playing, dare I say, normal to a degree. And soon as we get to the regular season, as soon as the lights get brighter, because obviously summer league is there are lights, it's live, but it's still practice to a degree. But the lights now got brighter for Ben, and even though it got brighter, it still was the same old stuff. He won't shoot the basketball. He won't do it, can't do it for whatever reason. And now Philadelphia is out in the second round again, and now Philadelphia has to think about changes. And they have to think about trying to move Ben Simmons at this point, because what can Ben Simmons has taken you, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We say all the time, everybody say, well, this group can win together, they can win together. It's not a perfect match. It's not. And we keep saying over and over that these two can win together. And everybody's saying, well, they can do it. They can do it. They can do it. They can figure it out. They just need the right coach and right people around them. All which may be true. All which could be true, I should say. But at the end of the day, the results are the results. And with Jimmy Butler, and I go back to that 2018-2019 season when they lost to the Toronto Raptors in the second round. And I go back and, Kawhi Leonard, shot that three, bounced around 50 times and went on it. We all remember. But I go back to that moment, that time, right? And, that particular year, ultimately, the things kind of cleared up for Toronto because ultimately they beat Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they went to the NBA Finals, and that's when Golden State had Durant and Curry and Klay Thompson and all those boys. But Kevin Durant went down, and then Klay Thompson went down. And ultimately, the Toronto Raptors won the NBA title. Now, would the Toronto Raptors have won the NBA title if Kevin Durant was healthy, if Klay Thompson was healthy? No, probably not. But they won it, and they got there and they won it. And look at the Philadelphia 76ers. And at the time, we said, well, these guys are going to be back. These guys are going to be able to get back to this point, this time, this situation, and be able to win an NBA title ultimately, or at least put themselves in position to get close to it, right? That was the year, 2018, 2019 with Jimmy Butler. That was the year where they could have won it. If they got to the NBA Finals and Golden State was depleted like they were, KD tore the Achilles, Klay tore the ACL, Philadelphia would have won an NBA title that particular year. That was your Kawhi Leonard did the bouncing and the ball went in from the corner to three. So that was their moment, their time, their situation, their place where they could have won it. And I think that's when Ben Simmons was at his best and he was standing in the corner and Jimmy Butler was bringing the ball up the court, facilitating the offense. Can't even talk. Ben Simmons was just standing in the corner. And quite frankly, maybe that was the best situation. But, ultimately, they said Brett Brown necessarily wasn't a big fan of Jimmy going forward, and those two clash, and some maybe Ben Simmons really wasn't too happy with Jimmy being there as well. But ultimately, they made a change. They decided, we're going to bring in Al Horford, we're going to give Tobias Harris max money, and we're going to run this thing out. And Al Horford, Embiid, and Tobias Harris is going to be there in our front court, going with Josh Richardson, who they brought from Miami, to go along with Ben Simmons, and that didn't work. Ultimately, Ben Simmons did get hurt. But Horford didn't work. They ultimately sent Horford to the bench. I believe they put Shake Milton in to start. And again, it just didn't work. It didn't come together, didn't work. And ultimately, the Philadelphia 76ers got swept in the first round. Ultimately, without Horford, it didn't work. The combination was a bad combination. And so it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the Philadelphia 76ers at this point in time are out of the playoffs. It's unbelievable. I'm shocked. Throughout the course of this regular season, I said it's important, it's imperative that they get the number one seed. Get the number one seed because you get the number one seed, everything's going to open up for you. You avoid Brooklyn, you avoid Milwaukee in the second round. So get the number one seed and just let this thing. You should be okay. You should be able to beat the Wizards, who they beat in the first round. Beat them in 5. Easily could have swept them, and then you should have beaten the Atlanta Hawks. You had 18-point lead in game 4, 26-point lead in game 5. You have moments, times, situations where you could have won that series and you could have put that series away. You didn't do it for whatever reason. You choked in game 4, you choked in game 5, and you choked in game 7. And now you're on the outside looking in. And they're going to look back at this season as a chance. This was a chance. They had a chance to win an NBA title this year. Just the way things were opening up for this particular ball club. You have home court advantage, and you're very good at home, 29-7 in the regular season. So you have that. You have home court advantage. You have a decent team. You have one of the best players in basketball in Joel Embiid. You're playing at a decent level. You're a big-time defensive team. You have everything. And, ultimately, you could probably play, Phoenix or the Clippers in an NBA Finals. No matter who you play, 2 teams that you could beat, right? So the Sixers are going to, and then again, you have Milwaukee in the next round where you had home court advantage. So the Sixers are going to look back at this season and kick themselves. They're going to kick themselves, and they're going to kick themselves hard in the butt because they had a moment, a time, a situation, a place where they could have gotten to the NBA Finals. They could have gotten to the NBA Finals, and they could have won the NBA Finals. And it goes back again to the 2018-2019 season where Kawhi Leonard and Toronto Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals, right? The Sixers, things were opening up for them. You look at Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn, a team that you thought was going to stand your way possibly. Kyrie gets hurt. James Harden's playing on one leg. And then Kevin Durant's pretty much a one-man show, and he couldn't get by the Milwaukee Bucks. And again, credit to him for playing as hard as he did and doing the things that he did, right? Kevin Durant had a big-time performance. He gained that game 5 was a performance for the ages. That triple-double, 45, 48 points, 15 rebounds, a bunch of assists, 10 assists, I believe. Like, that performance was big-time. And he came back with another big-time performance yesterday, but 48 points. Like, those were, he went down swinging. But clearly, if Brooklyn were healthy, they probably beat the Bucks. And you had Brooklyn out the way, and a Milwaukee team. Milwaukee's a good basketball team, but they're very beatable. Milwaukee was beatable. And I know Milwaukee swept the Sixers in the regular season, but they were beatable. They were a beatable basketball team, and you had home court advantage. Philadelphia 76ers and look at next year, right? Brooklyn has all those guys back. And Kyrie Irving, as good as he is, you do have to question his ability to stay healthy. It's questionable whether Kyrie Irving can stay healthy. It's a questionable situation. I don't know. I don't know if he's capable of staying healthy. Only time he really stayed healthy was that year they won the championship with LeBron, and he hit that big shot in that game 7 against the Golden State Warriors. But you had an opportunity now because Brooklyn's going to come back reloaded with Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant. And then they're going to get a full training camp together. They're going to get a full training camp to be able to implement and be a cohesive unit. One of the advantages you had against Brooklyn is they weren't cohesive. They just came together now. So you had an opportunity to beat that team. They were very beatable. And ultimately the Bucks beat them, but the Bucks beat them because health got in the way. So the Sixers are going to look at this moment. They're going to look at this time. They're going to look at this situation, and they're going to say to themselves, again, we messed up. And we look at life. You only get so many chances to do certain things. You have an opportunity to do something. It's always good to seize the moment. Sixers could not seize the moment in 2018, 2019 when everything just opened up for them to win an NBA title. And they couldn't seize the moment this year where, again, things kind of opened up for them to win an NBA title. Again, Phoenix, beatable. Clippers, beatable. Bucks, beatable. But that may not be the case next year, especially when it comes to Brooklyn. They're going to be better. They're going to be better. They're going to have the shot making that they have in Brooklyn and Kevin Durant and Kyrie and James Harden, right? Put that together, get that crew, a training camp together where they can be cohesive and be an actual unit, an actual team. Like you look at LeBron and the big three in Miami, the first year they got together. They got to the NBA Finals, but they lost to Dallas Mavericks. But they got there. But the next year, they became a cohesive unit. They became a cohesive unit, and they kept going back to NBA Finals year after year after year. They didn't win every year. They won twice. But they kept going back and going back and going back. And they had the Eastern Conference on lockdown. And the Milwaukee, and I know after this, they all had player options, Harden, Irving, and Durant. So theoretically, after this year, they can all skate as well. They can all move forward. But next year, they're probably going to be better. And they're probably going to be a more cohesive unit. And they're probably going to be a more cohesive team. And they're probably going to be a team that's going to be very difficult to take out if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. So this situation was perfect for you. This opened up nicely for you. And if you're running back and the hole opens up and you go to the left instead of going to the hole, you know what? You messed up. You messed up, but the daylight was there. Go through the hole, exploit it. Get there. Get the yardage, right? And the Sixers, the hole opened up. The hole opened up for them to go right through and ultimately get to the point that they want to get to. And they went left. They went right. And they got stopped. They got stopped. And here's the thing. Toronto, that 2018-2019 year, Toronto, they got to the NBA Finals. They won the NBA championship. They were better than you. Sure, fine, okay. Boston, the first year you made it to the playoffs with this group, Boston, I thought they were a little better because Boston was banged up that year. But ultimately, Boston, let's just say Boston was better than you. They did have home court advantage. This time in the second round, when they lost the Atlanta Hawks weren't better than the Philadelphia 76ers. They weren't. They're not. They weren't. But I guess you have to say they are at this point. But they weren't. They weren't the better basketball team. They were not the better basketball team, and ultimately, they beat you. And now, at some point, you keep coming back and saying how, this is next year, was always next year, is always next year. At some point, next year ain't going to be. There was always tomorrow where dreams come true, right? At some point, tomorrow very well might be too late. And when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, tomorrow very well might be too late. And now the Philadelphia 76ers are on the outside looking in. Ben Simmons, might be time to say goodbye, sir. It might be time to say goodbye. We took this as far as we can take it. You are who you are. You are that dude who's going to be a good big-time defender. You are Draymond Green, pretty much. Ben Simmons, you are Draymond Green. And here's the thing with Draymond Green. Draymond Green looked great when Steph, Clay, and all those boys were doing their thing. But when Steph and Clay were all hurt, Draymond was 6 points, 6 rebounds, or 7 points, 7 rebounds, something like that. Very pedestrian numbers. Still a big-time defender, but the numbers were very pedestrian on the offensive end. And so, look at Giannis, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Milwaukee Bucks, 2-time MVP. Giannis, his stroke isn't great. He doesn't have a great stroke. Not a great shooter. By no means is he a great shooter. By no means does he have a great stroke. But Giannis takes shots. He shoots threes. He shoots jumpers. He is not reluctant to shoot jumpers. He is not reluctant to at least try to fail. It's one thing to try and fail. It is another thing just to not try at all. Ben Simmons doesn't try at all. He doesn't try at all. It's okay to try and fail. The worst thing is to not try at all. The worst thing is to not shoot your shot. He did not. He does not shoot his shot. He does not shoot his shot. And one of these teams is going to win an NBA title. One of these 4 teams that are left is going to win an NBA title for the first time in their history. Whether it's the Atlanta Hawks, whether it's the Milwaukee Bucks, whether it's the Phoenix Suns, whether it's the Los Angeles Clippers. One of these teams is going to win an NBA title for the first time ever. And for me, at this point, I'm looking at the Phoenix Suns. I'm looking at the Phoenix Suns as the team that, Chris Paul can get healthy. I know he's got the COVID situation going on. He's in health and protocol situation with Chris Paul. But if he can get it back on the court, it's a situation when you look at that basketball team, look at the Suns with Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and the guys that they have. It's crazy. It's just, the Suns could be the champions. Like that bubble situation for the Phoenix Suns changed the whole course for them, right? They went 8-0 in the bubble, and it seemed to set up a culture that ultimately was a winning culture. And now this team brought in a guy like CP3, like Chris Paul, and you bring him in, a guy who brings stability, a guy who helps, all that. Chris Paul is a professional point guard. He's a pro when it comes to being a point guard in the National Basketball Association. His ability to do all the things necessary to be a point guard. He's a point god, if you will. And maybe it's the Bucks year. Maybe it's the Milwaukee Bucks year. Maybe it's time for Giannis. He's come up short a few times. Maybe it's time for Giannis to finally break through. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's that moment. Maybe it's that time where he breaks through and finally wins an NBA title. Maybe. I don't know. But at this point, when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, it's time, and it might be time, to make a change. Change may have to come in Philadelphia. Change may be what has to happen for the Philadelphia 76ers to get out of the second round and take that next step. I know this. I know if you're TNT, who has the Eastern Conference Finals, you probably wanted the Sixers in there over the Atlanta Hawks. Major market in Philadelphia, Embiid against Antetokounmpo. You got all that going for you, and now you don't have it. And people could say, well, the NBA is rigged. All these people say NBA is rigged. You think the NBA really wanted the Bucks and Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals? I think for them, they'd rather have the Sixers and Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals, because you have New York and Philadelphia, 2 major markets, right? And if you're the West, you probably want the Lakers and whoever else, right? You want LeBron. So anybody that says the league is rigged, be quiet. Just shut up at this point, because at this point, right, I don't think it is, because they're not getting the matchups they want. I think if it was rigged, they would be a little better at rigging it. And you can rig an NBA game very easily. The officials can play a major part and a major role to rig an NBA game. But again, if they really wanted to rig these playoffs, the teams that are in there now wouldn't be there. Bottom line, point blank. Well, I'm getting up out of here. Just subscribe to the channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel, support the channel. We talk sports, have a little fun here. A lot of NBA here, and the NBA playoffs will go on and on and on, and we'll be there covering it all the way to the NBA Finals and beyond. Take care of yourself. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Have a nice day. Appreciate the subscription. Appreciate that. Continue to subscribe. Continue to like. Continue to support. Take care of yourself. Be blessed. And live your best life. Do whatever you got to do to be successful. Be happy, and do the things to help not only yourself, but most importantly, help others. You help others, you help yourself, and all will be well. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Stay COVID-free. Bye.